Hey, 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 there you are. How is everyone doing today? This is Andy Christopher, aka the D.I.L.F, the dad I listen to frequently. Get your minds out of the gutter, people. And we are here today to talk about cliches and parenting conversations. They are everywhere. They're basically the way and modes of communication, especially coming out of COVID. It seems like interpersonal communication and just talking in general has become more and more difficult, and it's like a muscle you train, so everyone has to retrain themselves quite a bit as they get back out into the mix and in front of people. And I remember being terrified when I finally got back in front of people just to talk about who knows what, much less my children, and I didn't really know what to say anymore. Did anyone else experience that, where you just felt a little bit confused about what was my normal small talk routine? How did I go about this? Because everything became virtual and Zoom and FaceTime and phone calls, and you got a speed, and you were training your muscles for those types of conversations. But then when you're in front of people, it's like, oh shit, I'm kind of scared again. As I was looking up some fodder for today's conversation, one of the things I despise the most is the ads, the ad overload, and just obsession with peppering you with retargeting and things to click on and confusing you on recipe websites and parenting websites. Have you ever noticed that? Where you go in to find information, like let's say you want to cook, I don't know, like butter chicken, or I don't know, I'm stuck on chicken right now, but like Thai fried rice or something, pad Thai, and you go in to find a recipe, you click on one, and you just want the ingredients and how to prepare it, and you get hammered with 47 different pop-ups and things about joining newsletters and this recipe website and that recipe website and this and that and this and that. Then you read through the whole author's life story about when they cooked pad Thai for the first time, and then you finally get to some of the ingredients that they put into it, and then there's a button that you have to hit that says, go to actual recipe, and then there's 16 more ads, and then finally tells you like, oh well, you need cumin, you need this spice, this and that and this and that, then another little gap, and then it gives you the preparation. Same thing happens on parenting websites where they just want to hit you. I'm looking at this one, Windstar Cruises. I had to close one out that was for another parenting blog. I mean, they're everywhere. Just let me get the information that I want. I wish there's a way to just opt out of all these things universally. I would pay a flat fee to be able to just see the recipe and never have to scroll through all that shit again. I digress. So today we're going to talk about some parenting conversations that you better get ready for if you're becoming a new parent, or if you're an existing parent, how to up your your small talk game. And then we're going to talk about some cliches that just are nails on a chalkboard to me as you hear them over and over and over again from friends, family. Doesn't matter who's hitting you with it. You seem to get it from the checker at the grocery store, or when you take your dry cleaning in. They're just some that really get on my nerves. And then we'll close things out with some nice quotes, and just just some things to get you through the day in terms of, I don't know, might be like gratitude, might be a healthy way to look at it through the lens of a cliched quote. But when you soiree back into the world, and you've got your kid, and let's say you're past paternity and maternity leave, and 3-6 months, who knows how old your child is, you start having conversations with your friends and with other parents, and everything kind of is lather, rinse, repeat, where you can kind of gauge exactly how that conversation is going to go based off of how long you haven't seen that person. And the one crux, the one conversation that you better have dialed in, and it will be the one that you can commiserate about the most and the one you can laugh about the most, is our lack of sleep as parents. Everyone always walks up, oh, how's it going? Oh, baby girl is she was just born. Oh, how are you guys sleeping? Immediately it goes to sleep. And everyone knows that we don't really sleep all that well, but there's something about commiserating together and having that shared that shared experience that automatically bridges the gap and makes you feel closer to that person. It's like, do you remember back in college when you would procrastinate studying for a test and you'd run into a friend in the halls who's in your class and say, hey, hey, Sally, did you study for this test? And she'd say, no, did you? Be like, no, maybe we should study together tonight. And you'd automatically feel better, like a little bit uplifted that there was someone else who was procrastinating with you. You were sharing in the misery. And that's the same thing with these parenting conversations. And when you talk about your lack of sleep, or when you run into someone who potentially says, oh, well, you know, baby's only 2 months old, but they're sleeping through the night. Things couldn't be better. I feel like nothing's really changed that much. Then you're on the other side of the coin. Then you're like, well, screw you. I can't stand that, because when Arlo was born, he didn't sleep for more than 45 minutes for the first, I want to say, 3 months. It was a nightmare. One night he slept for 2 hours, and it was the biggest victory of all time. But his sleep was horrendous for at least the first 18 months. Well, maybe more like 14, probably embellishing that a bit. But that affects our sleep as parents. And you learn to get on autopilot, and you learn to figure out the things that you need to do in order to kind of get shit done around the house, get shit done for work. But that conversation will come up every single time without fail with any other parent who is out there. The next one that automatically lends itself to this one: how are your kids sleeping? How is your child's sleeping schedule so far? And for the first few weeks, couple months, everyone's is relatively the same. The baby just wants to sleep. Like right now, Alina, she is 3 weeks old tomorrow, and she just is sleeping all the time. She has a witching hour or a couple hours between about 8 and 10:30 at night, which kind of sucks when you're trying to get into your routine and go to bed yourself. But it's not so bad, because then she sleeps for a big chunk, feeds, sleeps for a big chunk. And then she sleeps a lot during the day. Now that it's getting hotter here up in Reno, it lends itself to napping more, because it just physically exhausts you more to be in the heat. And so she's sleeping, and she's gaining weight, and she's doing all the right things. All the metrics are there. She's nursing well, and so that's good. But Arlo, on the other hand, it's a real mixed bag. Last night, yesterday, we went out to the pool with one of Arlo's best friends and our friends, their parents, and they got super exhausted. The first time Arlo skipped a nap, didn't nap at all during the entire day. Then he slept from 7:15 p.m. until about 8:30 a.m. And it was like a godsend. It was incredible. But the night before, he woke up at midnight and he was screaming, and we had to go in, and it's still very checkered at times. And as they're starting to dream, as they're starting to have fears, and as they're starting to have all these recalls and things like that, you deal with these one-off situations, no matter how well your child has been sleeping through the night up until that point. And when it comes to conversations with other parents, it's really a fine line. You don't want to brag, but you also, don't want to just hit them with all your tales of woe. And so you get a feel for how everyone's handling sleep. And if you're simpatico, where it's just like, oh, well, my child's sleeping patterns are pretty off the wall too. We can't get them down at the same time at night, and this and that. And you have these shared ones, then you're gangbusters. If you're both not sleeping at the same time and your child's are on a similar schedule, you basically have a new best friend for the next 5 years. And those conversations popped up frequently, and we every parent has their own story to tell in that regard. So I always love listening to how different parents are handling it, as much as we want to talk about ourselves and our children and how we've been getting them into certain routines. Another big topic that always comes up: picky eating habits. I feel like kids eat almost anything once they start trying food up until they turn about 2 years old. Then there's a script that flips, and they just get a little picky. I have seen one-off stories, and I have seen, people who cook their children great meals and whole healthy meals and this and that, don't introduce snacks, and the kid just eats well. But like for us, we got into a snack routine, and now Arlo just wants snacks and fruit snacks and anything pertaining to snacks. And so it's one of those things that you really have to kind of find a way to ease into conversations, because eating habits really give parents trouble, and it's really frustrating to have to deal with something like that. And if someone is continuing to battle their kid, they don't want to hear about how your kid's eating so great. They want advice on how to help get their kid into better eating habits as well. But this is absolutely a conversation that pops up. I definitely have to take a break right now because, believe it or not, Arlo's awake from his nap. So I'm going to pop back in and continue on with this particular episode after a word from our sponsor.